Namaste and good evening. The superficial layers and the deep content of the mind. All of us know the quality of our life depends so much upon our own mind. One sign of certain philosophical maturity on our part is that we acknowledge how our joy and sorrow are determined by the texture of thoughts, by the quality of emotions in us. In our immaturity, we tend to blame others, blame the world, blame people around us, blame the situation around us for our suffering. As we grow a bit mature, we realize others may have contributed a little bit to what we are going through, but a major share, the lion's share, we can say, towards why we suffer is from our own within. That brings us to certain sincere effort on our part to understand who we are, especially what our mind is. Our mind, which has lots of thoughts, lots of feelings, lots of conclusions, and all these thoughts and feelings and conclusions and beliefs and so on determine whether we are happy at a given moment or are unhappy, disturbed. Now, life is a journey. It's an inward journey. Outwardly, we do many journeys. We take up many journeys and go places. But here we are saying there is an inward journey. And it's in this inward journey, we realize that this mind of ours is not as simple as we had imagined. That's where the topic of this evening has come up. The superficial layers of the mind typically are very concerned with what sometimes we call firefighting. Firefighting is an idiomatic expression. As you know, firefighting involves fire. Let's say our house has caught fire in a corner. We leave everything and go and try to put out that fire. Another day there is fire and another corner, and we put everything aside and go to that corner to fight that fire. This being just an analogy, firefighting, as most of you know, is an idiomatic expression to get busy with certain things which draw our attention in the present moment and lose sight of the whole of life. So, as we are more thoughtful, we realize that we are just wasting a whole lot of time in the so-called firefighting. What makes it worse is more than half the problems with which we are dealing are self-created. It is our own mishandling of some relationship, then the repercussions thereof. So we wonder, is it possible for me to handle my relationships a little more maturely? If I mishandle my transactions, my interactions, I say what I should not have said, and I do not say what should have been said. Then face the music. Afterwards, I find myself the target of criticism of many people, and so on. That is where, friends, today's topic wanders on another dimension of the mind, that is, deeper layers of the mind. How do you distinguish? How do you divide? How do we, classify this? What is superficial? What is deeper? One may ask. Well, let us clarify first. We certainly are not playing with words. By using words like superficial and deeper and so on, we are not playing with words. There is certainly the superficial layers of the mind, which we are generally aware of, and we, in fact, go after them, address those thoughts. A certain worry arises in my mind. I try to address that worry. What is it I can do about it? Right? Then, what is a deeper layer? With a little bit of self observation, we realize that there is a certain deeper mind which actually is expressing itself here and there in the form of the conscious mind. The superficial layer is an expression of what is inside on a deeper level. The deeper level is like a repository, a collection of a whole lot of impressions, whole lot of beliefs, and so on. And the superficial layer has thoughts and emotions more related to some trigger, some impulse, or what they call some input. They call it in psychology stimulus. I am peacefully walking by a nice path inside a park, and let us say my eyes fall upon a banner, a poster, and what is written in that poster annoys me. See, that is the trigger. That poster is the stimulus, and so many emotions erupt in me. Now, where do they erupt from? Does everybody who sees that poster get the same reactions, same responses? Not at all. It is I or some of us who get wild looking at that poster. Some others are happy, some others are indifferent. So, without going to what poster it is, what it might be saying, which is not important, I'm sure it is clear enough now that upon a certain stimulus entering us from outside, something from a deeper layer comes to the fore, comes to the foreground, comes to express itself. Therefore, it is very important to be able to look at the deeper layer, and that is where a certain teaching becomes relevant. Unless the superficial mind is quiet, we will not be able to observe the deeper layers. I'm not saying we can observe everything in the deeper unconscious domain. We are not interested in seeing everything, but even a little, even a peep into the unconscious, a peep into the hidden content of the mind can make a big difference to our thoughts and emotions on the superficial layer. Now, why do we want the mind to be quiet? It's just like you are using your mobile phone in a busy market and somebody is talking to you on the mobile phone, but you are not able to hear him well. Don't you then wish that the marketplace had less noise? You may try to go to a quiet corner. Pretty much like that, Our superficial layer, trying to address so many issues of daily life, trying to do so much of firefighting, becomes the cause of so much such din and roar. We are unable to watch ourselves properly. So please note, we are not trying to quieten the superficial layer for just the peace that will come from that quietening. We are not doing it for its own sake, but we want to have a quieter mind so that not to just relax or not to enjoy the quietude, so that we can pay attention to the deeper layers. Let's take an example. I feel, let us say, very lonely one fine evening. Now, the superficial layer says, see, last 10 days nobody has come to see me. In fact, this so and so who lives very near hasn't shown his face to me. And the worst thing is, he has not even made a phone call to me. Blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on. Complaining about him or her, right? That is the superficial mind. Now, when we talk about a deeper layer, it is something like this. I don't want to have much thoughts about any particular person, any particular event of yesterday or day before. All of them have a place of their own. Quiet. Let my superficial mind become so quiet, then something which is the cause of that loneliness, something that is beneath and behind those bouts of loneliness becomes evident. May not right away, but there is all good chance of it becoming evident. I I realize that I have been so much into this feeling of loneliness. It is as though I have fallen in love with loneliness. It is as though it is a bad habit with me to say to myself, oh, nobody is with me these days. There was a time when everybody wanted my time. Everybody would invite me to get togethers, parties. Everybody would long for my company. There was a time, ooh, and so on. Now, if that noise is quiet, we will be able to notice certain root cause of that loneliness. And everybody should discover by themselves what is going on deeper layers in the mind. But to explain, we use a certain example. The example is, I will realize that there is a belief in me that to be surrounded by people is fun. People should be around me, or I should go to meet people. I should be talking to somebody. Somebody must be talking to me. I react. So there is a visualization of how my life should be, and that visualization is not coming true. We speakers sometimes feel very lonely when nobody is inviting us to give a talk. And when we notice the deeper layer, there is a wonderful discovery. On a deeper layer, on a deeper level, we ask ourselves, wait a minute, delivering a lecture, is it a basic need of human life? Can you not live without giving a lecture? Is it for livelihood that you lecture? Is it for your food and drink? Is it for basic existence that you want to give a lecture? And the intelligence inside us comes out with an emphatic no. I don't need lectures. I don't need to write books. I don't need to be popular. It's not necessary that every time some people should be dependent on me. Wanting that somebody should be dependent on me is a very horrible thing. That dependence itself will be like a thorn in our flesh. But this is better understood in our being aware of the deeper layers of the mind. This doesn't become evident by reading books and books. This doesn't become evident either by listening to lectures or by giving lectures. So many of us give lectures round the clock, all through the year. But you think we don't feel lonely? If somebody doesn't or people don't see me for a few days? In spite of all those lectures, we could feel lonely like anybody else does. That means using the intellect and visualize scenes and scenarios and then deliver lectures, write books, go and attend others' lectures, talk about it, etc., doesn't do much when it comes to diagnosing, troubleshooting. What actually is the trouble with me? This applies to our pursuit of pleasure. Why do some of us every half an hour or 1 hour drink something, eat something, every now and then munch something, put in the mouth and munch? Is it really because we want that pleasure? Or is munching something, eating something, drinking one more cup of coffee, is it an escape? Don't say hurriedly, yeah, it is an escape. Nor should you say hurriedly, it's not an escape. Please, as you know, Krishnaji many times would ask a question, and if somebody in the audience would try to answer him, Krishnamurti used to say, Sir, please do not answer. He used to say, Sir, be with the question. Do not be in a haste to answer the question. Be with the question. It's a very profound statement. To be with the question without being in a haste to answer creates the necessary environment for coming upon a great discovery within ourselves about ourselves. To be quiet on the usual superficial conscious mind, which may sometimes begin with being quiet on the speaking side. Some of us have to talk continuously. Some of us, suppose somebody comes to see us, meet us, we can't telling her something or the other, telling him something or the other. Whether she listens or not doesn't matter to us. We go on and on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Stay quiet in speech. And with greater self awareness, we stay quiet even in thoughts and emotions. Many a time we are not asked anything. We are not, requested by anybody to talk about something, but it just comes up. Same thing applies on the plane of thoughts. So many thoughts rise in us because of sheer habit. We have become so mechanical. A machine just repeats its operation. Same way, if our mind becomes repetitive, then we do not have a quiet mind. You want to have a quiet, superficial layer of the mind, and then certain hidden causes of all the chaos, all the imbalance, all the disorder in your mind surface. They were always there, but we've had no patience to see them. In having a quieter mind, not by forcing the mind to be quiet, of course, forcing never works, but through a certain exercise of intelligence, by a certain power of understanding. What we do is let go of the urges. It's like I want to make some strong Nescafe and drink. Then I realize I had one half an hour ago. Then gently I let go of that desire, seeing that it is so foolish to go on drinking cups and cups of coffee. By seeing becomes action. I do not reach out to that cup of coffee. So, is it possible for us to let go of habitual thoughts, to let go of certain guilt or shame that is repeatedly coming inside us, rising inside us? Some of us live in so much of imagination that we are good people, all others are bad. How presumptuous. What makes you think you are virtuous, you are noble, you are Mr. You know, Mr. Clean, as the expression goes. I am Mr. Clean. All others are corrupt. I am so clean. Hold on. Just look at your own life. Think of the blunders, the errors you committed. You will be able to remember how you had let down maybe your own parents, your own sisters and brothers. You had let down your team members. And today you dare think of yourself as Mr. Perfect. I have never made any mistake in life. And so on. Hold on. All this is because of certain habits of narrow thinking. When there is awareness, thoughts are as though watched by awareness, automatically the superficial mind becomes quiet. It is like a thief entered a house and started searching for some gold or silver or some hard cash, and then suddenly the thief realized that somebody is watching him. If the thief realizes that somebody is watching him, then you think the thief can continue to look for valuables in the house? The thief just stands without motion for a few seconds, and then he hears the voice. A male voice says, who has entered? I see him. Somebody has entered our house. I'm seeing him. And a female voice says, I am also seeing him. He is standing near the refrigerator now. The thief hears these words. Now the thief knows that somebody, a couple probably, are watching. They know I am near the fridge. Now, more than searching for this or that, in much likelihood, thief would think of getting away from that place. Not to mention other possibilities, but certainly the feeling and the thought I am being watched brings about a change in his behavior. Likewise, this is an analogy, excuse me. Our thoughts and feelings being watched become quieter. They as though lose their strength. And right away, we realize how we have, through long years of practice, maybe, don't have to find the reason, but we are so habituated to be with the same worry, with the same desire, with the same pursuit of some some pleasure which comes and goes. Why are we so much mechanical? It is in these deeper layers that we realize that we have fallen into a trap, sometimes self condemnation. There are people in this world who make bigger mistakes than I do, but they don't seem to be much worried about it. I, even when I make some small mistake, a little lapse on my part, start labeling myself. I am such a wretched person. In this lifespan, I will not be disciplined. I have gone terribly wrong, this or that. So that's called self condemnation. I am immoral. I am a demon, and so on and so forth. In the same way, self appreciation. It is called self justification. Whatever I did is the best. Whatever I said was the best, and so on. So much noise occurs in the superficial layer. If we do not fall for that noise, they withdraw, the thoughts get calmer. Not suppression, please. This is not forcing quietude on the mind, but it is through certain watchfulness that the superficial mind becomes quiet and the hidden layers of the mind are rising with some force, and I notice certain causes. The causes could be some memories, the causes could be even some childhood memories. Somebody had hurt me in my childhood, and that might be causing some amount of my adult behavior. Somebody had praised me so much, maybe when I was in high school, that got into my head. And even at the age of 50 or 55, I tend to think that I am, of course, a good guy in this town. The praise I received in high school from some teachers, we don't know why they praised us, could go into my head, right? In this way, some memories, some impressions, they are called conditionings. Some conditionings set in motion certain forces in the deeper layer. And let me tell you, this is what you and I can experiment and find out for ourselves. When the superficial layer becomes quieter, the deeper layer becomes visible. The understanding of our conditionings is easier. Quiet, non interfering observation used to us what they call sometimes out of box thinking. Out of box thinking. Let's say somebody was hung up on the thought how he could be success in some business or in some project. Mind is continuously going back and forth. Maybe I do this, I'll be successful. Maybe I do that, I'll be a failure. Maybe I do this. So success, failure, success, failure. You know what is out of box thinking? Let me clarify on this and conclude. When you are quiet on the superficial layer, when you give a chance to, on one hand, the conditionings to arise, on the other, more importantly, you give a chance to the intelligence inside you to operate unhindered, and out of box thinking can come to the forefront. Suddenly, you may realize, or we may realize, well, I really don't need this business. I really don't need this success. I don't really need the glamour of going around saying, see what I did, see what I built. See the award I received. How silly. Why am I creating certain image in myself? So out of box thinking. Now it's no more about success or failure, but a fundamental question whether I need this business, this work, this enterprise, this new project, etc. Not that you should fall for that insight, but once that insight arises in you, you may give due consideration. Maybe it is something very sensible to, in a nice way, abandon the project or make some such fundamental changes that you no more are going simply by some imitation. You are imitating somebody. You wanted to be like him or her. Now, without imitating anybody, you sort of find yourself. You sort of discover the real you in yourself. All these friends amounts to understanding the deeper content of the mind. We must not stay too long. We must not stay stuck with the superficial mind and waste our life in mere firefighting. We must be available for certain more sensible queries, more sensible pursuits in thought, in our feeling, and so on. Let me pause here. Thank you.
Harshad sir, please.
Yes, are you able to hear my voice?
Yeah.
Thank you, Swamiji. You have made very clear that what is surface layer and what is deep down the conditioning and the past experiences, maybe even from the past lives, we don't know. I think Swami Vivekananda had given this analogy that if you want to look at the bottom of a lake very clearly, the water must be clean and the water must not be moving. Very still water and clean water, then what is at the bottom of the lake can be seen clearly. So this is a kind of an analogy. Uh, what I like to say that we are talking about the mind, but what is this mind? It can't be, it is not a thing, it is not localized at some place within the body. We know the brain, and scientists are doing research on the brain, and they see some activity going on in the brain, some electrochemical activities, and they are saying that from that electrochemical activities, thinking is arising. But it seems to me that that is not the cause. This electrochemical activity in the brain is an effect of thinking. And this thinking is coming from the past memories and the language which we have learned, and from where it comes, whether it is in the brain or outside the brain, we don't know, because we scientists have not been able to localize, to find out where the memories are stored and where, from where this thinking is coming. It seems to me that thinking is happening, as Swamiji said, as a habitual activity, because we have many experiences and it has become a habit. But I think the question is it possible to see this thinking arising at the source? And then a question arises what is it that can see the thinking arising? And we say that it is awareness, but then we don't know what is that awareness is. How does it come? So a mind is a mystery. Only thing, as Swamiji said, that only when our superficial layers of the mind become quiet by maybe doing some method or out of curiosity, because when a person becomes very curious to look at his own mind, then my experience says that the mind really stops and feels like there is nothing to see. And that and at that time this exists, this awareness which can see thoughts as they are without labeling it. So that awareness is a kind of a freedom to see everything very clearly. Thoughts, feelings, anger coming can be seen by this awareness or intelligence. And that possibility exists in human beings. And another thing which I like to say, that this mind, we don't know, is it within the body, these thoughts, or they spread out outside the body like a wave. And why I'm saying it, because one person is able to understand another human being non-verbally in silence. That is possible because something is coming out from one person and the other person is able to catch it, these waves, which are in which there are no words. And that is what a non-verbal communion, which happens sometimes between two people. And there are stories about Mahakasapa, when Buddha in the during the talk, he raised a flower in his hand, and Kasapa looked at the flower and smiled, and there was some kind of a non-verbal communion had happened between Buddha and Mahakasapa, and that is considered to be the beginning of Zen Buddhism, which is not so much about the verbal understanding, but looking non-verbally. And so I think that is the real thing. If we can look without a word at a tree or a human being, without these memories and experiences coming in between, then we can really see it very clearly. And that is why Krishnaji was asking this question, how do you look at a tree or the face of your friend? So there is this possibility exists within us to see everything clearly. Even this thoughts and feelings arising as they are arising in the present moment. And that is the real freedom. And that awareness, choiceless awareness or intelligence, which can see, once that happens in our life, then we really feel that something new has happened. And then we become very, very curious. It really helps in learning even many subjects which we have to learn, whether it is history or mathematics. That ability to look silently and without focusing. Uh, Focusing can happen when it is necessary, but with attention, looking at everything. when looking at the star or the clouds, birds, and that way of living without these words, memories coming is a real freedom. Uh, and that is possible in human beings. And some mystics, they have gone very, very far in their own mind. And like Kabir, he said that everybody goes up to the boundary of the mind, means remains within the sphere of thinking and feeling, but Kabir goes beyond the boundary and he plays there in the open field. So many, many mistakes Krishnamurti was also indicating that apart from thinking and feeling, which governs our life so much, and it creates many, many problems in our life by quick reaction like anger or fear, jealousy, and so on, that there is another dimension exists within us, which is called this choiceless awareness or intelligence, and that can be awakened only when we become very, very curious to look at our inner world. And when we say I or me, we use that word very casually, my problem. But what is this I or me? How does that me or I arise? And that is the real question, Raman Maharshi, who am I? As long as that question has not become a very, very a genuine question in our life. Because when we want to know who am I, then there must be something else who can be watching this I. And that something else is the freedom. And so, as long as that freedom has not come in our life, we will be getting carried away by these thoughts and feelings. And sometimes I give an analogy that where is this awareness? Is it somewhere in space? Uh, it seems to me that this awareness also exists, but it is buried under very dense layers of thinking and feeling on the surface, and this awareness is hidden under, so it has no chance to come up. But when there is some kind of discontinuity in our thinking, a space between two thoughts, then there is a gap is created, and through that gap, this intelligence or awareness can come up from the bottom and then it can go above the, the surface of thinking and feeling and can look down at thinking and feeling very, very clearly. So um, maybe this is a matter of experimenting that people who are very, very curious to ask a fundamental question that what is this I and whether these thoughts and feelings can be observed from a different dimension than thinking and feeling. Because what happens that even the scientists, they are observing thoughts and feelings from thoughts and feelings, that dimension only, and that is called intellect. But intelligence is different. It is coming out from thoughts and feelings and looking everything, whether it is an outside thing or inside what is happening. And that is a marvelous thing. And that is what these religious, spiritual, mystic people are deeply interested. And so that reminds me that there is a tremendous treasure buried within us, but we are searching for the treasure outside. And very, very few people are able to touch the treasure buried within them. And Kabir was one of them. And he said, तेरे पास हीरे मोती, मेरे मन मंदिर में ज्योति, कौन हुआ धनवान? So Kabir was a very poor man, but he had found a treasure, this awareness, intelligence, which can look at everything clearly. And same with many, many other mystics, Mirabai and Ramakrishna, Krishnamurti, Ramana Maharshi, and so on. So this field is very, very mysterious field, and we don't need many instruments to investigate all this thing. All we need is a very quiet place and uh, um, with all curiosity, honesty, energy to look at the beginning of a thought. When such a thing becomes very interesting, then many, many things happen in our life. And that is the real beauty, love, all that exists in that dimension in which these thoughts and feelings and the sense of I and me doesn't exist. So a beautiful, much uh, one can talk about it, but I have finished right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dineshji.
Are you able
Dineshji,
to hear my
we
voice?
are able,
Yes.
able to.
Today's again the subject is complex. First of all, I would like to say that Swamiji has in detail clarified the matter, and he has uh, clearly said and explained the things very well. Similarly, Harshad sir has also given some very good inputs on that, on the topic. So I am also want to give some my views on this. There may be some repetition because already Swamiji has said many things, but I would like to repeat them. JK says the mind has not only the superficial layer of consciousness, but also the unconscious with its many layers, which is all memory. So memory is covers both conscious mind as well as subconscious mind. I would say I would prefer the term conscious mind. You can observe it only when the superficial mind is extremely quiet. Not making the mind quiet, but to see the truth that you can only observe the mind when it is quiet. So you need not have to make the mind quiet, but you have to understand or you have to go deep and see that unless the superficial mind is quiet, you cannot reach to unconscious mind, or it cannot come forward. Here I would like to say that there are linkages between conscious mind and subconscious mind, and many things conscious mind gives the instructions and subconscious mind follows. So there is not such a main difference between them, and there are linkages between them. But still, for the sake of understanding, we may use terms differently. Observe the mind. You can only see or observe the mind when it is quiet. When you see the truth of it, it happens. Means once we understand that unless the superficial mind is or conscious mind is quiet, we cannot touch the unconscious mind. So the superficial mind or the conscious mind becomes quiet, and it happens. And to watch the mind, the daily activity of the mind must completely end. Here he gives a statement which is a sort of condition. So that also we have to see. Swamiji has given very lightly or address lightly to this, that it should be quiet. And as we cannot hear the mobile in the garden or that, and we have to go out and then we have to listen to the mobile. But here he says, to watch the mind, the daily activity of the mind must completely end. Means you have to go into the isolation or what? This we have to see. And another point he has given, which is left, nobody has discussed. Another point is attachment. A mind that is attached is not objective, not clear, cannot think sanely, and observes directly. So attachment has also to be seen. Unless if there is any attachment, then you cannot touch the unconscious mind with a clear eyes. Next is habit. Here the mind works mechanically in grooves. So this may also interfere in reaching to your unconscious mind. Because these are mechanical, and there are so many mechanical things which are going inside you. Say for example, cigarette smoking. But we give the example of cigarette smoking. But there are some, so say we are very much interested in music, and we are for years we have been listening to the music and this thing. Then that also makes us conditioned. And if we have listened a song many times and we have interested in that, then that repeats itself. So that also can interfere. So habit also interferes. And JK suggests choiceless awareness without effort and with attention, along with a state of mind which is whole. After understanding the whole structure of movement of mind in fragmentation or division, etc., thereby creating, which creates conflict, fears, etc. Because fragmentation also we have to understand, division also we have to understand, and otherwise it will, because of fragmentation and division, if you have not understood fully, then we cannot tackle this conflict and fears and all other things. Then such observation makes mind free, he says. This also covers function, movement, disorderliness, limitations of thought. My views are, now my views. What is the reference for superficial mind should be extremely quiet? Is it polarity or non-polarity reference? Here reference may be duality or polarity. As JK says, observe the mind when mind is quiet. When one has to observe, whether observer is there or not, if self is totally free, then also the duality comes in picture. Now further JK says, when you see the truth of it, it happens. I am having my own doubt with how many people it is possible. In my case, it took many years, means time is involved in particularly happening of quietness of mind. But the mind is, again, is partially quiet. It is not totally quiet, I would say, but partially quiet. Next JK condition is, I dare say, it is a condition. Please note that to watch the mind, the daily activity of the mind must completely end. Now, how many people can end the daily activities? Because there are targets and there are so many things, pressures, society pressures and all that. So in that traffic of, say, it is converted to thoughts, and in that traffic of thoughts, can you completely end that activity? I am having my own doubts. This question questions many aspects of teachings, like mind should be aware while doing the daily activities. He himself, JK himself confirmed that mind can do one job at a time. So this is also has to be seen. In my case, I found that principally what JK is saying, that is correct. But philosophically is correct, or principally is correct. but its practical implementation depends on fresh energy available to the individual. Apart from his passion, curiosity, persistence, uh, honesty, etc. This is apart from his passion, curiosity, persistence, honesty, etc. My other observation is, in case of old memories, the mind drops intellectual data like situation or cause. And in more older memories case, even the senses data. We will see if we will do the dissection or analysis, say, for example, of any memory, then we will find that it contains not only the intellectual data, emotions, feelings, but also the senses data. Suppose in sixth class, you have faced, your teacher has given you some punishment, and at that time there was heavy raining. So you will also remember with that punishment, the heavy raining, that it was there was a heavy raining at that time. So this is senses data. But in much older memory cases, this data is also not available to you. Only feeling and emotional energy remnants are left, which becomes tendency or vulnerability factor. To deal with such old memories, also the fresh energy with wholeness is required. As in case of Swamiji, he said that there is a mood of, say, isolation or there is a loneliness sometimes. So this, and it is without cause. So such mood swings and all that, we see, if we go and find what is the cause of it, we will not find any cause. It is causeless. It is causeless to the extent that it goes to the unknown level, or not only unconscious level, but unknown level. So from unknown, it is emerging. And we do not find, as Harshad sir said, what is the cause? Maybe from the last incarnation or whatever it is. We don't know. So these are the things, and these are my views. Thank you.
Pradeep ji, please unmute and say. Pradeep ji.
I'm audible, I think.
Oh, you are audible, visible both.
Okay, thank you. Quite a bit has been covered by Swamiji and Harshad Bhai. Harshad ji almost covered the entire philosophy almost of Krishnamurti, as usual. Then Dinesh also pointed out certain things. I'll try to be as brief as possible using minimum words, because it started, of course, Swamiji clarified what he meant by superficial and deep. We started with the example of loneliness. Immediately, we said, what caused loneliness? So something like reviewing the past. Caused means it has already become content. Already we are going for the deeper content of the mind. Something past. So reviewing the past, something like regression analysis or depth psychology. So suddenly past becomes important, which we have been saying, that freedom from the known, freedom from the past, unless until that is done, nothing you can see clearly. So importance of past in that way. Even cause and effect will come up with this. We can see clearly, we all are emphasizing this point, we can see clearly only when there is silence in the mind. And these deep down disturbances would not allow me to come to that state of uh, silence. Even it doesn't ask whether it is superficial or deep or whatever it is, but that cause is deeper than, and it is all the time working something like past continuing in the present. And it has become something like a suffering. So seeing clearly, then we talked about out of box thinking, or something like lateral thinking by De Bono. So ultimately, the topic is very, very holistic. Suddenly, what we have been underscoring earlier in different small packets, sometime about the past, sometime about the future, something about psychology, something about mechanical and this and that. This topic is included, is integrating all those things as important in me, because me is related to all this, who suddenly feels elated or suffering. So we have to see, before giving a point blank answer to something, something like dying to the past immediately, dying to the known. So if that happens actually, then you won't recall anything. You won't know even what could be the cause of this. Whereas, unless until go deep down in us, these things will never be, and ultimately that unknown has to become known. So it is very simple. It looks very simple when we listen to people, even JK. He makes everything very simple. But why this doesn't happen in me or us? We have to integrate the whole thing. Everything at a proper time is important. When the past becomes present, you can always say it is present, it is not past, but there is a continuum. So this is what I feel, that I would like, I'll be very happy if Swamiji says something about what I have little pointed out. Or Harshad Bhai, that matter.
Only Harshad sir will reply you. Swamiji is
Chidanandji,
Swamiji is not there. He won't answer the question. He has gone. So
Yeah.
Harshad sir will reply you. Harshad sir, please answer his questions.
Okay. Pradeep ji talked about the past, how the memories creating suffering, and this uh, sense of me. All this is very much related. As long as we have this sense of me, my body, my problem, um, it is thinking only, actually. This me, which is thinking, is also coming from thinking only. To see that freedom is required, to see that what we call I or me, it is nothing but a product of thinking. And if this is understood only intellectually, then the problem remains. But when it becomes very lively, that your mind really stops and a thought arises, and you can see the thought that is beginning. It's like being in an empty room and the door is open and somebody enters from the door, and you know that somebody has entered because you are in the room, empty room, your eyes are open, your mind is alert. So Only when freedom happens, then we can really see how thoughts are creating problems. Otherwise, we don't see. We can see intellectually that thinking is the problem, and then we ask what to do, and then we think a lot, read a lot, discuss a lot. But that will not help because everything is in the plane of thinking and feeling. Even our dialogue discussions are only in that plane. So, as long as we have not felt that sense of coming out from thinking and feeling and seeing thinking and feeling clearly, as long as that has not happened, and we can't really plan it also to come out and look as if there is no one, no observer looking, but awareness is looking. So this is something when it happens in our life, then we don't have any questions really about all this thing because if there is any question, one can even see the question arising and see that there is no answer. So verbal answer will not satisfy us. So the whole thing is being silent and looking at what is. And that is the real thing, it seems to me. Okay, I have finished. I think
Adin,
Adin wants.
Adin,
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
go
So,
ahead. Adin, please go ahead.
yeah. So, so the question of superficial mind and if there is anything deeper than the superficial mind. So, if I listen to this topic, the first thing that comes to my mind is can we understand Krishnamurti intellectually? That is the first thing that comes in my mind. Is it possible to understand what Krishnamurti is saying just intellectually? So, generally, we are using our intellect to understand someone or something, but is that the right way to understand another person? Because or is there some deeper connection which is needed to understand another person, which is more direct, which you can call awareness? So I have seen in myself also, and nowadays, like we have a very short attention spans, I guess, or less attention spans, less aware. Uh, Probably because also like externally, we are surrounded by words, knowledge, thought, and our mind has got caught in it uh, on the intellect level, on the word level, and we don't have the space for even our own thoughts. I mean, our feelings. That is also not just one is the external thoughts. So if we are caught so much in the external thoughts that we don't give space for our own thoughts or feelings. And that's what normally is done nowadays because you have so many options. They call it binge watching. So you can watch for hours and hours, 10 hours, you can watch one serial, one after the other, next episode, next episode. And our mind gets absorbed in that in order to forget something or not wanting to be aware of some feeling inside of us. So we are only using one part of our body, which is the intellect. And the awareness, even the body awareness, or um, the silence which comes with that, is not there. So same thing is that if we are giving some importance to one thought within us, some conclusion, some method, something to implement, which we have decided that I will implement this, I'll do this, and we are caught in that, and we are then not aware of any other feelings in us. there is no freedom for other thoughts or feelings to come up naturally and flower. So, this naturalness, is it that we have become so intellectual that we have lost this naturalness, which is, you can call awareness, where it is. So, basically, in awareness, we don't know what we are aware of, right? It comes on its own, and then we are aware of that. It's not that we choose that I have to be aware of this right now, which is, may you can say, concentration or something. But in awareness, it comes on its own, and we are aware. Like, even externally, if you go in nature, you don't decide that you will be aware of a bird flying. It just the bird flies, and then you're aware of it. It's not your choice that makes the bird fly. Choicelessly it happens, and then you look at it. But in intellect, we are given so much importance, the superficial layer, conclusions, and we are only using that is naturalness. So I don't think so. It is a outcome of our choice that we can be aware of other things inside of us. It will come up on its own. It's not in our hand. That's what I feel. But yeah, at least we can see that the intellect is not everything. We cannot get all our answers in books, uh, in words. Even Krishnamurti is helpful only to the extent that he is pointing to something else which the intellect cannot understand and capture in words. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I want to share. Yeah.
Thank you. Harshad sir, would you please like to say something?
No, what Adeen says is true, that you
Yeah.
cannot understand, you can understand intellectually what Krishnamurti is saying, and there are people who can also give talks, but to be free from problems, one's own problem like jealousy or fear or anger, loneliness, that will remain with intellectual understanding. But that is not much. I think one can make a profession of explaining the concepts coming out from Krishnamurti's teachings, but it is not living with the teachings. And that is why one professor had come to Krishnaji and said that I have studied your teachings for 30 years, but I have not moved, means I have not changed. And Krishnamurti says, you have not moved because you have not stopped. Stopping means really forgetting everything what Krishnamurti has said and looking at one's own mind in a direct way. And as long as we are not able to look at our own mind in a direct way, then all these words of Krishnamurti may create even more confusion sometimes, because at one time Krishnamurti may say that no effort is required, and other time he will say tremendous effort is required. So then you get confused. What he is saying? He is contradicting, and so some people feel that Krishnamurti is contradicting because they are just looking at the word and trying to understand the word, but what is behind the word, as long as we don't catch it, then it can create more problems in life. And some people have also told me that they made a mistake in reading Krishnamurti, that they understand intellectually, but they cannot live that way. And so it creates more conflict between what is and what should be. So Krishnamurti also said that it is very dangerous teaching because you understand what he is saying, but you cannot live that way. Then you will not be able to sleep at night. And to somebody, he said, it's like you have skeletons in the cupboard, and you can't get rid of those skeletons which are there in the cupboard. That means what has happened in the past, you have not looked at clearly, then that thing will come up again and again and will bother you, the past, future, and all that. So, Krishnaji is talking about living in the present moment, looking at whatever is coming and not getting stuck. Even the past thoughts may come, but they can come and go. But when you try to then analyze it, then you complicate it. So, Krishnamurti's teachings are very great teachings, but at the same time, people who can't do it, they find it very meaningless, very difficult, and they may say that very few people can do what Krishnamurti is talking about. Okay, I finished.
Thank you very much, sir. At this note, let us finish it. Modak, please finish it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.